Hey, David from Comic Book Investments. So this was brought to my attention from one of my subscribers, Erica, first. A shout out to them. Um, yeah, so this is a terrible, terrible story, but it's not unique. So this person basically sent in their comic to CGC, and they made them regrade it, and then they ruined the book. So so I'll walk you through the story. Um, so it says, thank you for this recent submission for a read holder. So this person basically had a Wiz Comic 53. It was a 9.0, and who knows? They wanted to give it a read holder, which basically means that maybe the case is cracked, or sometimes CGC changes their label, and so they like the way that it looks. So then they, want a new label. That happens, especially with like I don't know, you see what they do with like Avengers and Spider-Man, stuff like that. They'll put like Spider-Man in the label or Avengers in the label, like the picture of Spider-Man or of Hulk or whatever. So that's kind of cool. So sometimes people want to get a reholder, or it's all scratched up, or it's kind of splitting, meaning it's like coming apart because the adhesive is breaking down over time. So that's why you reholder. It's, like $25 or something like that. All right. So the person sends in to get a reholder. And then they say, I regret to inform you that our graders determined that the Wiz Comics 53 book will receive a lower grade than what it currently is on the label. While rare, books can incur damage excessive to handling, collectors, transit, as well as improper storage. So basically, they're saying, yeah, we graded it a 9.0, but now we feel it's not a 9.0 anymore. So, okay, that's weird. All right. But basically, they say choose one of these options: refund the reholder fee, which is like $25 for the damaged books, damaged, okay, um, and return it back raw with the rest of your reholdered invoice. So basically, you have the option of like, yeah, we cracked it out, and we're just gonna give you the book back raw because CGC is like, well, we don't consider it a 9.0 anymore, so we can't leave it in the 9.0 case that you sent it to us in. So we're going to crack that case out, and then we're going to send you it raw. So, okay. And then number two option is reholder the damaged book after adjusting the grade to reflect the current grade. Grading fees for the appropriate tier will apply. So basically now they're saying, or option two, we can regrade it with the appropriate grade. So let's say they think it's like an 8.0. Well, now that $25 reholder fee now puts you in like, $500, $400 tier. So now you have to do like the higher up tier from the value tier, the economy tier. And so now you're paying $30, $40 depending if you're a dealer and whatnot and all that kind of stuff. All right. Or option three, you can press the book. They press it. And then it might potentially help elevate the new defects to improve the grade. Of course, you have to pay for the grading costs and then the pressing cost. All right, so these are your three options. So my issue right here is when you get this has happened before. There was a customer who had a bunch of old comics and in his basement or something like that, it got flooded. Well, water seeped in, even though the book said like a 9.4, 9.6 on it. Water seeped in, it was all stained up, It's like staining everywhere, rusty staples, all that kind of. Clearly, it's not a 9.4 anymore, and that has happened. And they just sell it like, hey, this is what happened, and so that's why you kind of, that can happen. But in this case, I don't think that's what happened. If you look at the book, like I'm trying to move me out of the way. All I see is this little picture, but it doesn't look like it's all stained up. It doesn't look like the case got like someone ran it over, and so therefore it's completely damaged. So it looks pretty good. But when they're saying like, and now I know it's not water damage, like say if you dropped it in the pool and it's all wet now on the inside, I know it's not water damage because they basically say you can press it to basically get back to your 9.0 status, which means it's not going to be all stained up. You can't press out a stain. All right, so the like if CGC grades something, they need to stick by that grade. Or you could buy, say, a 9.6 or a 9.8 or a 9.4, or any grade, 5.0, 4.0, 2.0, right? And if they don't stick by that grade is worthless then. Oh, it was a 9.4 then, but it's now a 9.2 or 9.0 or 8.5 or 9.8 now, So, and I could totally understand if this was like water seeped in, there's staining, stuff like that. That makes sense. All right, so this person elects to have them press it and then try to get that 9.0 because probably he's like, oh, I bought this 9.0 for whatever he paid for it, and I like the grade. I want to keep it a high grade. There's not very many of them, so I don't want it to go down to like an 8.0. So yeah, press the book. So then they respond with, I'm sorry to inform you that your Wiz Comics 53 incurred a detached cover during the pressing process that impacted the grade. Your CGC's pressing process. Because it's impossible to ensure that the damage will not occur, CCS, which is CGC's pressing service, will not be held liable for split spines, covers, or pages detached from staples or detached pieces. However, the management has authorized a goodwill account credit, not a refund of your money, like, oh, sorry, we messed up your book, so we'll buy your book from you. No, literally, here's an account credit, so you have to use us again. Your account has been credited $450 to compensate for the situation and estimated value of the loss. The credit automatically applied, blah, blah, blah. We apologize, all this kind of stuff. I don't know. Like, you pressed the book. We will not be held liable. It's your responsibility. You pressed the book. If you damage the book, if you're pressing the book and you drop it on the floor, or you actually tear a page, or you're doing something and you ruin the book, that is your fault. That is your business. And you made a mistake. It's like, imagine if you're building a house, right? Or building something, and you had a contractor come over to build this thing. And he's like doing a room addition or something like that. And he's trying to put the new room onto the old house or whatever like that. And he like busts down a wall by accident and ruins something, or like ruins your flowers or whatever. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not liable for that. No, you are. You're the one there doing the work. You're the one that damaged it. You had the house in your hand and you decided to hammer through that wall. That is your fault. Just because it was an accident, that's fine, but it's your fault. They need to stand liable for that. And the reason why they do that, imagine if you did that to an action number 1, right? And they're like, oh my gosh, we lost so much money. And like, this book, it's like, yeah, we can just give you account credit. But yeah, imagine if action number 1, or Fantasy 15, Hulk 181. You send it a Hulk 189, oh, yeah, press it. Oh crap, we detached the staples. Detach the staples. It is no longer attached. You know what that brings that grade to? Even if it looks like a 9.0, 3, maybe 3.5. I don't know, it depends on how much, more damage there is and stuff like that. But you're not going to bring a 9.0, detach the cover, and it's like a 7.5. That's not happening. So now you have, imagine you did that Hulk 181. You 9.0, you're looking at a $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 book, and now it's down to 3.0, 3.5. Now you're at, a couple thousand. Oh, we're not liable. We're not liable. That's why they have to say that, even though they're the ones responsible for it. So it's just dumb. So they give the guy a $450 account credit, meaning they have to spend more money with them. I looked at the recent sales. The most recent sale of a 9.0, now this is a pedigree copy, was $670. So far under basically what they gave him. Now I don't know if he got the book back plus $450 or what. But also there's a 7.0 down here that's sold for $320. So I'll tell you a story that really made me mad with CGC. I actually got banned from CGC. So years ago. So we send stuff quite often to CGC, like every month. And we send now we send about 300 books a month, but probably back then, I don't know, maybe like 50 a month or something. I don't know. It was a while ago. And we sent in an Avengers 1. We bought the book as I think a 9.0. And we looked at it and we're like, you know what? This this is nicer than a 9.0. I think it's actually a 9.2. And we take chances on that. Sometimes we lose, and sometimes we win. So we took a chance, and we sent it in, and it came back a 9.2. So we got that bump, which is a huge bump. We listed the book, and the person that we bought it from got all mad. This has happened many a times. They want like money back and all sorts of stuff. You know, it's so weird. I don't understand it. It's like, no. It's my book now, but I choose to do it. Like this one person they're like, hey, that was my book. You got the grade bump, so I think we should split the profits, or you should give me some money for it. And I'm like, what? No. You could. Well, imagine if it lost money. Like, I can't believe customers think this. Imagine if the book I sent in, and we thought it would go from, we thought it was 9.0, and we thought it'd go to 9.2, and gave back an 8.5. And we sent it again and again. It always came back at 8.5, right? Then would we go to the customer like, hey, you sold this book that's actually an 8.5. We want some of our money back. No. So the guy got mad. I think he posted it on the CGC boards or something like that, and everyone started getting mad and saying like CGC is terrible. They don't know how to grade. This book it just buys based off of pictures. You know, the people on the boards are thinking like, oh, this is really like a 9.0. How could you give it a 9.2? All this kind of stuff. I don't trust CGC anymore. All this kind of stuff. So then CGC calls us, and then they're like, oh, you know, we misgraded it. It was actually supposed to be a 9.0. So can you send it back? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to send it back. You graded a 9.2. And he's like, no, you just, and then they're like, okay, how about this? We'll give you like, something ridiculous. Send it back in. We'll give you the 9.0 and we'll give you like a $500 credit. And I was like, no, the difference between a 9.0 and a 9.2 was like tens of thousands of dollars. I can't remember what it was at the time. It's been a while. But it was like, it was a lot of money. And I was like, no. And then they were like, okay, well, how about we buy it from you? I'm like, okay, well, we want this price. And they're like, no. They were only willing to pay slightly over the 9.0 price. I'm like, well, it's a 9.2. You graded it a 9.2. I didn't grade it a 9.2. I just sent it in. You're the one that graded it. Nope. So so this is what they did. They banned us straight up because all we did was took a book. CGC didn't know that we cracked it out. It's not like it comes with like some, you know, stamp on the inside saying, oh, this is a cracked out book. No, we sent him in Avengers 1, completely raw. That's how they saw it. They looked it over. They have 3 graders. 3 graders. Don't listen to that BS. It's straight BS. They've told us that so many times. All BS. They do not have 3 graders. They barely have 1. Like 1 grader per book. I'm sure they have lots of graders, but they claim they have 3 graders to look at every book. No, BS. So they have 3 graders that grade this book, and they all agreed that it was a 9.2. No. And then they send it to us, and then we get the book, and they're like, okay, great, now we're going to list it for sale. And then they get all mad. And I'm like, you're the one that graded it. And then they ban us. They straight up ban us because we didn't want to be pushed around by them and say, no, if you want to pay for it, you can pay full price. That's fine. But they didn't want it. They wanted to pay the 9.0 price. Then they wanted to send it back, and I'm like, no, you great. This is how we make money. Like, you make money by us sending in books. And so that's another thing. I honestly think it's in their best interest to downgrade as much as possible. So sometimes you'll get those books that are like, you know, they graded a 9.0, but it probably should be a 9.2 because there's no new. Once they give every grade, every old book a perfect grade, like imagine Fantasy 15, right? How many new raw Fantasy 15s are there, or new Action 1s are there? Not very many. So they never get to grade those. The only time they get to grade those is if someone like decides to crack it out. So it's in their best interest to kind of every once in a while give out a bum grade, because then you have to send it in again. Or if you don't, the next person that gets it thinks it's a nicer copy than it is, sends it in again, and maybe doesn't get the grade, and they just keep on sending it, keep on sending it, keep on sending it. So you're getting $300, $400, $500, $600 every single time they send it in. So it's in their best, because after a while, every single old book will be graded, and the only books they'll be able to grade is brand new modern books from like current year. And they make $20 a pop on those. That's not that good. So they need to be grading that old stuff. Anyways, so yeah, then they ban us. And I was like, because that's what they said. Okay, we're going to ban you if you don't do it. And so we talked to our dad, and our dad was like one of the biggest dealers in like the 80s and 90s. He's since retired and then came kind of out of retirement. And I was like, well, what? Because we're only a couple years into doing it. I was like, well, what should we do? And he's like, think about this. You're going to be banned for 6 months. And he's like, yeah, it sucks. But how much money are you going to make off this? And I was like, oh, we'll make a lot. And he's like, it's probably worth it. You'll end up making more money in the long run. And you don't want to set that precedent of if they feel like they gave you a bad grade, you have to send it back and they just give you, a crappy grade. So I was like, yeah, okay. So the CGC bans us for 6 months. It just so happened at the same time, CBCS was coming out. And so we just sent all our books to them. And CBCS was actually better than CGC in the beginning. They had a better website. It was easier to use. You knew exactly the grading. Like CGC is better now, but back in the day, you just send them in. You have no idea what's going on. Don't know anything. The website was never updated. You just randomly just get like a pile of books back or email. Oh, it's been graded. Okay. But CBCS was way better. You can see every step of the way that it went down. And so we sent it to them, and the grades were pretty good. We felt like CGC varies way too much, and CBCS was way more on top of it. And so CBCS was great. And even in the beginning, when we would sell a CGC versus a CBCS book, they would sell for close to the same price, and it took only a little bit longer to sell a CBCS book versus a CGC book. And so we were perfectly happy with CBCS. Even after our ban was lifted, we're still using CBCS. And then all of a sudden I think it was during the time they got bought out or they're about to get bought out, that they just went to crap. And now I haven't used them in years, but it went from they would literally lose books. Like they wouldn't tell us. All of a sudden they'd ship us books and we're like, hey, 3 books are missing. Where are they? Oh, we can't find them. All right, here's, $300. And we're like, what? Just like that. Like nothing. Like, here's $300 credit. We lost your books. Multiple times. Not just like one instance of them losing a book or two. Multiple times they lost books. And then they got really slow. At first they were super fast. Then they were like, and CGC is always like, oh, send in your book. All right, it's going to take us 10 months or something like that. Yeah, they're super fast, and then CBCS got slow, and I think they basically sold the business to Beckett, and the owners were like, oh, we made our money, and they just left, and then Beckett didn't know what to do with it. I'm using actually Beckett right now to grade some cards. They are, I sent in cards it's like 9 months ago. They still have not been graded. Still. I thought they were lost. And like, oh, no, it's going to take blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what are you doing over there? Like, it's not, like, if you're getting so many cards that you can't keep up with the demand, hire new graders. And I get it. It takes some time to train graders. But you've had plenty of time. Like, my friends are sending video games to get graded at WADA. It's been a year. And every time they're like, oh, it's going to be graded, they get like a new email. We have changed our policy. And now, instead of like 6 months, it's going to be like 7 months. And it just keeps on. So, I mean, that's my story with CGC. I still use them because I just wish they would be better. I feel like since they control the market, and then you have PGX. Oh, it's so terrible. Many times I cracked open a PGX trying to send it to CGC, and it's like, oh, I'm missing a page or restoration that was never mentioned. And it's like, I think PGX is like one person just doing everything. But there's just, I don't know, I run my business and, we try to be the best we can be. And, if we make mistakes, we own up to it. But like, I just wish they were better. I wish, like in this case right here, they should have got, hey, yeah, we messed up. Here's the going rate of the book. We can pay for that book right there, or we can send you back the book and pay you the difference. Maybe that's what they did. Maybe that's a 450 credit, but they shouldn't have given them credit. They should have straight up given them money. They probably get insurance for that, so the insurance would cover it. And they probably do. They probably doubled it, get the insurance, and then have a 450 credit. But yeah, so that's my experience, and it sucks for this guy, and he's not the only one. I'm not the only one. I'm sure you can just find tons of horror stories like this, but the worst is when it happens to a book that is either very high grade, like only a few. There's only a few in this grade, or it's rare. Like, because I always feel bad for the book because it's like, well, there goes. Like, once I had this adventure of Bob Hope #1, highest grade by far. The guy sends it. He literally taped the book to the packing material, and I'm like, I removed the tape, tears off a piece of the book. I tried to leave the tape on, downgrades the book. I was like, dude, yeah, it was only like $300 or $400 at the time. This is many, many years ago. But I was like, you can't get this book back. Like, maybe there's been a higher grade since then, but at the time it would have been the highest. I'm like, you can't find another nicer copy. You just ruined the nicest copy there is. So, all right, those are my thoughts.